Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our NBA picks for Monday, January 4th. There's quite a few games going on tonight. I think we have a 10-game slate, 20 full teams in action. A couple games with some big totals, couple games with some low totals, a few games with some big spreads that we got to watch out for. So there are a lot of ways that we can go tonight. So here are some of the guys that kind of stand out to us. At the center position, one play that we really like tonight is going to be Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota going up against Philadelphia. Philadelphia struggles to guard centers. Towns should be in a good spot to rack up some blocks. Jahlil Okafor, who is not playing the full amount of time with him coming back off of the injury, but is still getting a decent amount of time, is one of the centers in the league who gets a shot blocked the most. So opposing centers have been putting up big numbers against Philly because they've been able to rack up 3 or 4 blocks, which, as we know, every time you rack up some of those blocks, you add 2 or 3 points. If you get 2 or 3 blocks, you're adding 4, 6, 8 points to your total. And that can really push you over the top from a guy who just makes value to a guy who gives you, value added. We've also been seeing Towns play really well lately. He did have a bad game last time out, only played 25 minutes against Milwaukee, put up 8 real-life points. But before that, he was playing 30-plus minutes a game for about 6 straight games. And in 4 of those 6 games, he put up 40 or more fantasy points. So he has been giving you the production that we like to see. What we would really like to see tonight for Towns is that this is going to be one of those games where Kevin Garnett sits out. We don't know that yet. It's still early in the day, but if you do hear that Garnett sits out, everyone keeps talking about Gorgie Dang as the swerve, but as we talked about last time, you're better off looking at Towns because now Towns isn't sharing minutes with Dang at the center spot. He winds up getting a few more minutes and has been the one who has had the outsized production in that situation. Next guy I want to talk about is Russell Westbrook. Now, whether or not you play Westbrook really comes down to whether or not you think Oklahoma City blows out Sacramento in this game. It's one of the highest totals on the day. I think it's up to about 212 right now. But OKC is a double-digit favorite. I think they were a 10.5-point favorite last time I checked, and that number could even go higher before game time. Now, here's basically the way that Russell Westbrook breaks down. In his last 9 games, he's missed value in 3 of those games. In all 3 games, his team was blowing out the other team. He played less than 30 minutes, and he came up with 3 to 4 times value as his max. Whenever he gets in a game where he's going to play less than 30 minutes and his team's going to be in a blowout, that's usually where we see Russell Westbrook fail to reach value. The games that Westbrook does play at least 35 minutes, which has been 6 of his last 9 games, he's gone 5x or better for 50, 60 fantasy points in every one of those 6 games. He's had a ceiling up in like the 6.5 times where he almost hit 70 fantasy points. So his production is basically tied to the amount of time that he's on the floor. Now, we know that Sacramento is a paced-up team. We know that everybody has been doing well against Sacramento this year. So I do think that this is a great game to look at Westbrook. Like I said, it's mostly a GPP thing for me because there is a risk of blowout. If they do blow them out, there's a good chance you only get 28 to 31 minutes out of Westbrook, which is still probably going to be 35 to 40 fantasy points. But if you're paying $10K for him, 35 to 40 fantasy points is not going to get it done. If he does play his full 35, 36 minutes, and this game does wind up being a 115, 105, or 120, 110 kind of game with the starters getting full run, I see no reason why Westbrook can't put up another 50, 60 fantasy points and be one of the top players on the day for you. So for cash, I don't think I can use him, but for GPPs, I definitely think you need some exposure. 2 other guys that I'm looking at, I also really like Marc Gasol today. Gasol's been playing 40-plus minutes in most of his recent games and putting up over 40 fantasy points while he's doing it. He's only $7,000 over on DraftKings, so 40 fantasy points would give us the 5 to 6 times value that we're looking for to make him a viable option in both cash and GPP games. He's going up against Portland, so he'll see a mix of like Myers Leonard and Mason Plumlee defense, neither of which really scares me. Portland is a high-paced team, and the other thing that might be working in Gasol's favor here is there's a good chance that Mike Conley might be out this game. Gasol is a very good passing big man, so if Conley is out, there's a good chance that they're going to run more of the offense through him, which only makes it easier for him to get that 40, 45 fantasy point plateau that we're really looking for. The other guard that I really like today to pay up for is Ricky Rubio. Rubio, when he sees 30-plus minutes a game, as he has in 7 of his last 10 games, he's gone 5X in 2 of those, 5X in 5 of those, 6X in 2, and 8X in another one. So in 8 of those last 10 games where he's seen, 30-plus minutes, he's basically been giving you, good GPP and good cash game production. So I think in this matchup is another one where I would look to go Rubio's way. There is a lot of injury news that we got to worry about. And I know normally I give you some glue guys and some cheap guys, but the glue guys and the cheap guys today are basically going to depend on the injuries. So let me run down the injury report and give you guys a list of people you can look at. Obviously, make sure you check back closer to lock to see who's in and who's out. But these are some of the guys that I'm looking to target depending on how the injury news works out. We know that Jarrett Jack is going to be out, so Shane Larkin is somebody that you can target. I don't love the matchup for him, nor do I love his upside, but he is pretty cheap, and he is going to be seeing probably 25 to 35 minutes. The only other guy they have on the roster that can play point guard is Donald Sloan, and I'm interested to see how this shakes out because Jack basically just went down the last game with that ACL injury that's going to keep him out for the year. So even if you just watch this game to get a better idea of what's going to happen going forward, we do want to see how they handle the point guard situation now that Jarrett Jack's going to be out for the year. Another situation I wanted to mention. I know everybody looks at Livingston when they see that Curry's out. Curry is not out, though. Curry came back last game, played limited minutes. He's probably going to be back this game playing a few more minutes. He's still not going to get his full allotment of minutes, so I don't think you can use him. But the fact that he's playing any minutes also really hurts Sean Livingston, so I don't think you can use him. What we have seen, though, in the recent games is Klay Thompson putting up 40-plus fantasy points at about 7K, and Draymond Green putting up triple-doubles and just huge, obnoxious 50, 60, 70 fantasy point games, although he's a little more expensive at 9K. So depending on – I don't think Curry's going to be 100% today. So I think the two guys that I want to use in the way I want to play it is to look at guys like Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. I think they give you the most upside. Next guy I want to talk about is Gordon Hayward. He's been an option that we've been looking at all along. As long as Gobert is still out and Burks is still out and Favors is still out, Hayward is the guy who's seeing the big boost. You're also getting a little bit more out of Rodney Hood, but he's a little bit more boom or bust for me. But again, another guy that I would put on my short list. So I think he's involved and could be in the mix as well. Mike Conley might be out tonight. If Conley's out, I think Chalmers is the direct beneficiary. I also think, as we talked about, that Gasol will get a little bit of a tick up. But I also think that you're going to get a little bit of a tick up. You're going to need more out of guys like Barnes and Green and, maybe even like a Courtney Lee or a Tony Allen. I think that there's going to be a lot of extra production and usage on this Memphis team to go around. So I think you could get an outside game from more than one guy on the squad as well. Tony Parker is very likely out for this game. I think he might even be definitely out. So I'm going to go out on that limb. I'd be shocked if he does play. So that means that you're going to get some extra minutes for Patty Mills today. Patty Mills is pretty cheap, so he's in there. Definitely like him as a GPP swerve. I know everybody's loving Larkin and talking about Larkin without Jack, but I like Mills without Parker more than I like Larkin without Jack. Mills, we've at least seen some kind of scoring out of him. He's a good shooter. He could give you some shooting upside, so I think that would be the way that I would go there. And then the last guy I want to mention injury news-wise, we got Al Jefferson out, and Spencer Hawes likely out as well. Now, the Spencer Hawes news is a big deal, even though most people won't think so, because that's just extra minutes that are out there. So the guy I like the best is Cody Zeller. I know people have been talking about Frank Kaminsky. He's been seeing a few more minutes as well. But I think Zeller just gives you more upside and he'll probably see more minutes. And he's still pretty cheap on most sites, including DraftKings. So I think I have Zeller still ranked ahead of Kaminsky, but I think both of those guys are going to see an uptick based on injury. So that gives you an idea of some of the studs that we like tonight and also some of the injury news. As you can see, the reason why this injury news is so important is it's going to open up a lot of those value plays. The guys like Larkin, the guys like Mills, Chalmers, Zeller. These are guys that are cheap and you can use to round out your roster and still fit in some of those studs that you want to make sure you have the upside. So thank you guys for joining us here at rotocurve.com for our NBA picks for Monday, January 4th. And as always, stay classy, DFS.